And in one of the biggest coaching vacancies this summer, U.S.Soccer is reportedly interested in Hoffenheim manager Pellegrino Matarazzo. While born and raised in the US, Matarazzo has been playing and coaching in Germany since 2000. His managerial career began at Nuremberg, but Matarazzo landed his first head coaching gig at Stuttgart, where he led the club's promotion to the Bundesliga. In February 2023, Matarazzo was hired as Hoffenheim's head coach, and he went on to lead the club to European qualification for next season. Matarazzo is the only American coach currently managing in Europe's top 5 leagues, but his name seemed like a bit of a shock for most people. So Charlie, why hasn't Pellegrino Matarazzo been talked about more these last couple of months?
Because he hasn't won anything. He's not a serial winner. So it's one thing to say, okay, this is an American manager managing top talent in one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. Great. That's a step up from some of the local names that we've talked about in terms of national team coaches that are American. But remember what Matt Crocker said when he said we're going after the next coach. We want a serial winner. This does not check the box as a serial winner. 7th place in the Bundesliga does not check the box as a serial winner. His first job as a full team coach was at Stuttgart. That was a failure. So for me, if you're talking about the national team, yes, it's a step up from the names that we've come to see in terms of MLS. But is this something that is getting you going or hyped about? No.
Also, just the experience alone. He's only managed for 4 full seasons as a head coach.
December 2019 is when he started professional in the top division.
I wonder if this will make fans happy from a names perspective. You had someone who's coaching in Europe. It's not someone who we associate with American soccer. It's more of a Bundesliga name.
It's a different perspective.
But it doesn't fulfill the qualities that have been set out there from the sporting direction of U.S. soccer.
To give a little, personally, the first time I heard of him was through Grant Wall, who was a big fan of his and his playing style. I think it sits with like a more attacking 3 or 5 at the back. I agree with everything everyone is saying, but I also think Argentina would have said the same thing about Scaloni. Spain would have said the same thing about De La Fuente. These aren't serial winners.
No, they wouldn't have. De La Fuente won European championships with the younger youth national teams.
And he was in the system.
U17.
In the youth system.
Like,
could he have done it at
repetitively?
The senior? Yeah, he didn't have the
Well,
ability
he hasn't done that either. There's nothing on his resume that says, you are a serial winner, and we want you
serial winner, absolutely not. And if that's what you're looking for, then certainly this doesn't tick that box.
I think you limit.
Yes, wasn't a serial winner.
I think as U.S. soccer, Jurgen Klinsmann wasn't a serial winner. No, but actually, maybe Bruce Arena is the only one that you can come close to saying.
Bob Bradley won the MLS Cup too.
First year.
Serial. In a serial fashion, I think if you were saying
the Chicago Fire team was dominant. They were serial winners in terms of
If your qualification to be U.S. manager is that you have to be a serial winner, you limit yourself with the options. Pellegrino Matarazzo, I don't think is a bad option. It's definitely a candidate, probably a strong candidate if you put him next to MLS managers, right? I would say just as strong, maybe a little bit weaker than a Wilfred Nancy, for example.
It's a push. For me, it's a push.
And this is the thing, too. There's no international experience with him. Right? So this is a manager who's, and I don't know how serious these links are, because we all know agents can play a big role in saying this is much closer than it is versus a phone call, right? What I will say is, yes, this is a guy who I think will have good ideas to push this team forward, and there are it's a clean slate,
ideas.
Right? It's a different type of manager.
It just feels lateral to me. It doesn't move the needle.
It's not what, in my mind, what this team needs.
Chuck, tell me about this. We've been talking so much about mentality, right?
Yes.
And we're going to probably get into this later in the show. Is that a guy that, as a player, you walk into the locker room and that's a guy that commands respect out of everyone? Like everyone walks in and it's like, okay.
Well, this is the thing. I think any manager, you come into the locker room for the national team, you got to respect. But is this the guy?
You got to. There's a difference between you got to respect and immediately command respect.
This is no. For me, no. Absolutely not. No. You know the answer to that.
Right. So that's it. And to your point, it does feel lateral.
I know a manager who's in the semifinals of the Olympics right now who wants this job. And I've said from the very beginning, okay, we're talking serial winner. Does a gold medal?
I don't think the Morocco manager is going to take it.
I was going to say, I don't know.
Hey, that's all I'm saying. I think, like you said, you paint yourself into a corner, or you put yourself in a very, very tough position when you say serial winner. Because what does that mean? Does that mean trophies? Does that mean just winning games? Does that mean getting to, European finals, or putting yourself in that conversation, or getting always to the top, within the top 4, just getting into a European place? For me, serial winner means winning something, having silverware, or you have
a track record.
You have super strong international experience. Jurgen Klinsmann, he wasn't a serial winner, but he did get 3rd place at the World Cup, and he did win as a player. So when you combine those two, you say, man, you got something.
I don't think you need to be a serial winner in order to be a good international manager.
Agree.
But I will say the stakes are so high with this pick. U.S. Soccer has to get it right. There's too much on the line to have a World Cup in this country. And the bounce that comes from that, the attention that's going to be put on the sport in this country, you have to have a strong showing. I don't sit here and say you need to be a serial winner. You don't. We've proven that. Sometimes a spark can happen, but I don't know if you want to take that chance.
You need to do well at the World Cup.
I'll say this.
You need to have someone who's going to do the job.
This role is, like you said, so important, so critical to get it right. That are you going to rush to hire a Pellegrino Matarazzo? Mm-hmm. Is that the hire that you say, you know what, we're gonna cut out any other possible candidate or future candidate for this hire? No. And you wait.
And Paul Tenorio went on Scoreline over the weekend and said that, via his sources, he is a candidate, absolutely.
He should be a candidate.
But they are still talking to several other candidates. So according to Paul, this is still, they're still vetting other.
Can I tell you something? People. Also, let's just say it was Matarazzo, the national team manager, and I think this is something as a nation we need to get right, because it could be very well be an MLS manager, it could be an international manager everybody likes, it could be hiring that people don't like. We need to give the new manager the benefit of the doubt, the clean slate, and any prejudices that you have, walk out the door and let the results mold your opinion.
At this point, is there going to be one hire that everyone is unanimously happy about?
Probably not.
Even if it is that guy at the Olympics that you're talking about, I think there'll be people that won't be happy.
Of course there will. Of course there will. It's U.S. Soccer.
But it ignites something, and
it does.
I think that's the missing piece here, is that we need to feel excited. We need to kind of galvanize, and I don't know, perhaps this name, because he hasn't been mentioned that much, and there's an unfamiliarity about him. It doesn't do that. It doesn't move the needle. But we'll see. I'm
also big on the marketing side of it, and that guy doesn't really move the needle on that side. But the guy you're talking about,
what
guy am I talking about?
The guy he's talking about.
What guy I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Is he French?
Yeah, as long as they hire that guy, the one that
Not
one
this
of us
guy,
was talking
but that
correct.
guy.
Oh,
That guy
that guy
guy's
moves
got pull.
needles.
Wow.
Needles are shattering.